and I see two things typically. One is there is a communications plan, and it's usually pretty good. But secondly, it's never been changed from day one. And these are big projects. So sometimes I'm going in 3-4 months or more later. And you know what it's like yourself. I mean, loads of people, nobody has all their project resources on day one. People join the project, people leave the project. You work with third parties, systems integrators, technical, offshore, etc. So keep your communication plan up to date and relevant, and challenge people. Take it away.
Take it away. All right. It's time for another episode of the Cold Start Project. We started off this podcast first, 70, 80 episodes about the unexpected challenges of scaling, and then moved into space. And, well, project management is a problem everywhere. I've been an operations management guy for 20 plus years, and I've seen broken feedback loops and missing information and people not wanting to share and not good teamwork and all kinds of problems. No matter how technically skilled you get at some of this stuff, the feedback loops seem to still trip you up, So I'm very happy to have Peter Taylor here, the author of The Lazy Project Manager, which is a book that I've been going through. And I read through the first few chapters, and stuff that Peter covers was very specific and on things that I hadn't really thought of in the way that you present them. And so I had to reach out, connect with you, and get you on, and I'm glad you're here today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
All right. So let's talk about this book. It's been around for a bit. You are coming out with a new one, which we're going to touch on a little bit. But how did the Lazy Project Manager get started? I mean, it's kind of a weird name, right?
It is quite a weird name. It's kind of insult your profession and get on in life as the kind of. It really wasn't. I had no idea what it was going to be called. And you're right. It's 10 years. It's 10 years since it came out, September. So it's been quite a journey. Okay, yeah. I mean, how did it come about? I was working with a whole bunch of project managers at that time, and I was doing some behavioral analysis of how, half of them were being reasonably successful and working typically averagey kind of weeks. The other half were being ridiculous in the amount of time they were working, but they were being no more successful. No worse, to be fair, but no more successful. And as a result of that, I was talking to my manager at the time, and we were talking about, where we're going to go, what we're going to do in the future. And I mentioned, I quite like to do a little bit of writing and do a bit of speaking. He goes, and he just came out of the blue. He just said, well, you are the laziest person I've ever met. And I was kind of a little sad for a few minutes because, this was the third company we'd worked in. 3 times he'd employed me, and he thought I was a lazy person. But actually explained what he meant. And that kind of evolved in this idea of productive laziness. And I just thought, you know what, Lazy Project Manager, that sounds good. Let's give that a go. And the rest is, as they say, history.
Right on. So you have seen a lot of projects, you've seen a lot of patterns, and there were some items that you noticed. For example, the projects are thick on the ends and thin in the middle, right?
Yeah,
Let's talk about that for a minute. I think that will really help people to conceptualize what a project could look like.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think, if people think about projects, typically they think they kind of start small, they get much, much bigger in the middle and thick again at the far end. And I use a Monty Python analogy in that case. Some people may get the dinosaur Monty Python sketch and some people won't. But the point is, I argue from a project manager's point of view, not from the project itself, but from a project manager's point of view, it should be thick at the front end. This is where all the groundwork is done, where the foundations are set for project success. It should be thin in the middle because the project manager is working with their project team at that point, and they shouldn't be buried under work, etc. But at the far end, there's that magnificent opportunity to understand what went well, what didn't go well, what you can learn from, and how to avoid repeating mistakes and to learn from the experience. So that's my argument why projects are thick at the front end, thin in the middle, and thick again at the far end.
Okay. Now, the smallsat, cubesat projects that we see in academia especially, and in some commercial organizations in the space area might be new to you. I'm going to explain a couple of things, but you will have seen these things everywhere else in manufacturing and that.
Okay.
They don't get a sponsor on board quite in the right way, which again is something that I would have missed out on if I hadn't read your book, right? So in quite the way that you talk about it. The scope just gets out of control. They try and do everything and make everything and get all this stuff packed into the project, and it's overblown. They cannot possibly achieve it. And then the financial strain of it, everything kind of breaks. And then in the middle, they really get involved in this project technical aspects, right, of problem solving and how are we going to do this and that. And the big problem is at the end, when they had really needed to put half the project time, a third to a half of the project schedule towards testing, they don't have it at the end. And suddenly they've got to scrunch this stuff down, and that creates mission failure problems. They have a 40+% mission failure rate when the thing gets up there. So that is a serious problem. So what can project managers learn or do to become productively lazier that might help folks in the space industry?
Okay. I mean, one of the things, it kind of touches exactly on what you just described. The fact, the main job of a project manager is not to be buried in the weeds and in the detail. I'm not saying you are remote from your project team or you never get involved, but I see so many project managers getting so down in the dirt and the detail that they don't do their job, which their job is to elevate and look at the future and see where the project's going, and to assess that kind of burn rate that's going on, and to understand the the progress speed of the project, so that you don't have that, oh my god, yeah, we've used 80% of the budget and 80% of the time and we've still got half a project to do. It is about elevating and having that high level view.
Okay, let's dig into the sponsorship, because I think if this is key. Like, if you get this right, it's going to make your life so much easier. So talk to us a little bit about what the weaknesses that you've seen in project sponsorship selection, and kind of the, I don't know, the slushy way that it's been done until you get some structure to it, right, that you would provide. What can people learn and apply?
So I think the first thing is, and I know this upsets a lot of project managers, but they are not the most important person on the project. The project sponsor is. The project sponsor is ultimately responsible for the success or failure of the project. Now, you want a perfect partnership, absolutely. You want a great project manager with a great project sponsor. Now, there's the problem. I come from the generation of the accidental project manager. I had no idea what I was doing, and I managed to survive. We're in the age of the accidental project sponsor right now, and I'm going to give I'm going to teach you everything that you and your listeners need to know about project sponsorship in 3 numbers, and the numbers are 85, 83, and 100. Simple. I did some research for a book on project sponsorship, and we asked a large number of companies around the world, do you have project sponsors? We had a very wide definition of what that means. 85% who are doing projects said, yes, we do. You worry about the 15%, but hey, 85%, not a bad number. Then we asked, what do you do to support, train, develop, guide, mentor your project sponsors? And 83% of the organization said absolutely nothing. We just think, because they're great guys, that they can just do it. And then the killer is, we asked the last question, 100%, and it wasn't 100%, it was 99.5, but 100 is a great number to remember. Everybody said it was really important to have a good project sponsor in order to deliver project success. And that is the state of project sponsorship right now. We're in the age of accidental project sponsors, and it's, we can do 2 things. We can just live with wastage for the next 20 years and hope people move through the ranks who know what the hell they're talking about, or we can actually do something. And I love working with companies who want to do something about this.
Okay. Let's dig into it even more. Say you're a new project manager. Say you're in charge of a cubesat project at a university. You've got a bunch of graduate students in that, but you've got to go up to the higher ups and get funding, resources, right? That kind of thing. How should you go about this?
I think you need to build a relationship with your sponsor, and I recommend 3 things to people. So when you meet your sponsor for the very first time, understand them. Know as much as you can about them. Find out about them. I know it doesn't mean hire a private detective to get embarrassing photos that you can use to blackmail them in the future. It means they must have worked on other projects, hopefully, in the past. So go and talk to that project manager and find out what their communication style is. Find out what their needs are. Find out what their experience is. So now you know what you're dealing with. And then you need to find out what their communication styles are like. What do they expect from you? Are they a quick bullet point update, or are they sitting in my office at 3 o'clock on a Friday for 4 hours? What kind of person are they? And then finally, the third thing is, when you talk to them about the project, you have very open questions. Don't talk about deadlines and budgets and stuff like that to start with. Talk about hopes and fears, open questions. What do you hope this project will deliver? What are your worries? Because then you're going to really be able to gauge, are they bought into this? Do they believe in it? Are they committed to this, or are they just sitting on the periphery of it? In which case, you then have to do a whole series of kind of tactical activities, which is kind of what the book is all about. Is how do you deal with the various types of sponsors, the ones who are involved, the ones that aren't involved, the ones that micromanage, the ones that just don't want to have anything to do with the project. There's a whole bunch out there. But it is, the more you know about your sponsor, the better you can deal with them.
Okay. And you talk about reporting in the book. You talk about folks will go and write up huge in-depth reports and no one will ever read them. And it's kind of like, on the one hand, it's great that all that stuff's being documented. But on the other hand, nobody's reading it. So again, this communication style is so important, right? These preferences.
Yeah, I mean, I love, one of my favorite moments when I do keynote presentations is, I will say that reporting is not communicating, and you get the looks from the audience going, what are you on about? I mean, that's the heart of my communicating. Well, you're wasting your time. Because these days we have such brilliant tools, and you can produce all these, 16-page report, every piece of data in it, beautifully formatted, graphs, diagrams, graphics, fonts. Oh, it's beautiful. And the fact you email it to everybody plus their best friend actually means you have communicated to probably nobody, because it's too much. It's right information at the right time to the right person in the right way. I mean, you have to get all of those four right, otherwise you will fail.
Okay. So what are some questions that folks could ask themselves to make sure that they are getting those four questions right?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and I see this so much, I do a lot of work with organizations where I go and look at some of the big projects, towards the end of the planning cycle, etc. And I see two things typically. One is there is a communications plan, and it's usually pretty good. But secondly, it's never been changed from day one. And these are big projects. So sometimes I'm going in 3-4 months or more later. And you know what it's like yourself. I mean, loads of people, nobody has all their project resources on day one. People join the project, people leave the project. You work with third parties, systems integrators, technical, offshore, etc. So keep your communication plan up to date and relevant, and challenge people. I joked about the sponsor who wants a 4-hour meeting on a Friday. Hey, maybe that's relevant to start with, but adapt your reporting and communication so that it is appropriate for someone, and vary it according to need.
Okay. I can remember another story of the book, a couple actually, which come to mind, and this is why stories are so great. One where you went out of the room and loudly fired yourself. And then another story where, oh geez, well, let's cover that one first. What happened there? What were you
Okay. Yeah, right. I mean, each chapter of the book has a story where I basically completely screw things up, but I learned an important lesson, and that's what I'm trying to share. And that's one of the reasons people like the book. It's full of honesty, as opposed to a book of absolute perfection,
right.
of behavior and performance. So this particular situation, the project was going really badly. It was the worst project I ever managed. There are a lot of reasons behind that, but we reached a point where the only thing that we were doing was burning time and burning money, and everybody hated everybody else. So what actually happened was, eventually, after trying several things, I took my core team offsite. We went to a local hotel. We booked a meeting room. I brought in a facilitator in the morning to help us re-energize and blue sky think and brainstorm and all those good things. And the lady left lunchtime, and everybody still hated everybody. And I was desperate. I honestly had no idea what I was going to do. And that moment, as we went back in the room for the afternoon session, I did the thing. I stood up and said, I'm going to solve all the problems on this project right now. And I walked out, closed the door, pretended to be my manager firing me in a loud voice, gave it a minute or two, walked back in the room. And most people got the joke. A few people looked disappointed I was still employed, but most people got the joke. And really, it just broke the ice. And I'm a great advocate of fun on projects, and I do a lot of speaking these days. In fact, I even do a kind of stand-up comedy project management routine these days after dinner events. The power of the appropriate humor and fun in a project is incredibly, well, any team is incredibly powerful. And so out of that desperate moment, I pulled something out of the hat, and it kind of makes me smile even today.
Right. Well, very good. Very good. Hey, this is Jason Kanigan, the host of the Cold Star Project and the founder of Cold Star Technologies. I've decided to do something new. I've started doing daily update videos on who I met and what I learned the previous day in the space field. And it's a great sort of follow me thing. You can learn what I learn. I'm meeting a heck of a lot of people and learning a lot of things really fast. And the space field is really disparate. There are tons of nooks and crannies to go into and explore, from legal, operational, regulatory, compliance, and gosh, the end customer. Who'd have thought about that, right? So you can sign up for this if you go to coldstartech.com/MSB, that's short for Make Space Boring, the mission we're on. Then you can sign up, and in your email you will get a daily notification that the new video has been posted. I'm also thinking about doing some branded mini courses and summarizing papers as I'm able to. So those will be some goodies that are in there as well. So if you're interested in that, go to coldstartech.com/MSB and join us on the mission to make space boring. Now back to the interview. Now, the second story that I remember was you had taken over a project partway through, and I think this will be instructive for our listeners and viewers. And it didn't work out well, and in a few weeks, the project was passed along to somebody else.
Yeah.
What happened there, and what would you do differently? Because I'm trying to address the what happens when you get a new project dumped on your lap that's been
Yeah.
going on for a while. It's new to you, but it's been existing. What do you have to do? Because you
Yeah.
miscommunicated in that story, and I love that you shared that because we've all goofed up like that.
Yeah, the essence of that story was I did take the project over. I could assess it was definitely not going to be delivered on time. There were many reasons, most of which were the client's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I built a nice journey to present back to them, and I entrusted the information with a team member who, rather than allow me to take the client on a nice, safe journey to reach a happy conclusion, he just blurted it out over at the coffee machine to the guy before I could come back and have that meeting. And so, that was my project long gone. It is about, I think, it is about engaging everybody and getting involving everybody in appropriate communication. I mean, it should never have got into that situation to start with.
Yeah.
So one, there was bad communication to begin with and bad control. Secondly, I took a little bit of a relaxed approach to this. What I was feeling confident about was I know the answer and I know when this project is going to be delivered. And actually it was delivered exactly when I said it would be by the third project manager, not me. My mistake was not shutting that down there and then in saying, right, we need a meeting now. I was juggling projects. I went off site. I came back on site, by which time I was willing to be screwed. And not out of malice, the guy was just trying to do the right thing and just share the information. So, communication is something that needs to be managed. Project managers spend 70, 80, 90% of the time communicating. And it's the fact that you want control, you just need to manage it. And you need to bring your team into it as well. And I didn't do that. And I was lazy in the wrong way at that point, and I paid the price. That's the only
Right.
project I've ever been thrown off.
Well, very valuable learning experience, and thank you for going through it to teach the rest of us. So, what does Peter Taylor do beyond project management? What kind of things do you enjoy?
Oh, well, actually, yeah, it's all associated in many ways to project management. And I write, and what gives me pleasure, I mean, apart from my family, of course, is I love to write about project management or business and change or anything like that. So yeah, we're up to about 9. Well, I've just finished the 19th book now. And I love to travel and talk. I love doing keynotes and inspiration sessions, motivational sessions around the world. And the later project manager has allowed me to do that. So all of that together just gives me quite a nice balancing what I do. Occasionally I work full time for companies, and occasionally I consult part time, and I constantly speak, and I know it's nice. And the rest of the time I'm home with my good lady and our 9 children. So we have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we have a whole bunch between us. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy when we get together at the festive period.
Okay, and you got a new book coming out with another funny name. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So 10 years ago, Lazy Project Manager came out, and it was pretty radical at the time. As I said, every book was pretty serious at that point. And I was I met a lady who ended up being the co-author, a lady called Susie Palmer-True, and I met her actually, although she's from England, I met her in Athens at a conference, and she's young, she's energetic, she's challenging, she does not take anything. She won't let you get away with anything, and she's from the north of England, and she's very blunt and a little bit potty-mouthed occasionally when she talks. But I loved her. I loved her spirit, and she made some comment about project management, and I said, "That's a brilliant title for a book." And she goes, "Well, get us a publishing deal, and I'll write it with you." And what she actually said is project management, it's bollocks. I mean, it's bollocks, it's bullshit. It's what's grown up around project management is, in a sense, it's just got so complicated. There's just so much. And there's a lot of worthiness in everything that's out there, but we're just saying, you know what, if you're a project manager, or probably if you're not a full-time project manager, if you're someone that does projects as usual, the stuff that you do during your day-to-day job, you cannot be buried under body of knowledges or vast levels of sophistication or anything like that. You just need to know the basics. And that's what we try to do with this book, is say, okay, let's cut all the rubbish, all the crap out around it. What we think are the 7 core principles of delivering a project or delivering a change? That's what and we just broken the book down to that level. And I hope, I mean, for me, this could be one of my last books. For her, I hope it's the start of many books, because she is the future. And as I joke in the book, that she's the lady that's stopping me being the boring old fart of project management. She's challenging me and keeping me young. And I'm very excited about the book. So it's big. It's got a great big pink cover. It comes out in January, and I'm excited to see what it does.
Okay, and so this is going to be about simplifying the ideas of project management,
Yeah,
and,
going
and
to the
cleaning
heart
it
of it.
up.
Yeah, well, we talked about, seven cracking ideas, or 7 key things you should be thinking about when you're managing projects. And yeah, you can wrap everything else around it if you want, but get these things right, and you've got a great chance of dealing with the current world that is kind of challenging as far as change is concerned. So yeah, that's what's again, like Lazy Project Manager, humorous, engaging, simple, simplified towards the end, very very similar kind of format in some ways. And something that people can really reference, and hopefully gain benefit from.
Right. Well, I look
So
forward to that when it comes out in a month or two.
yeah, January
Yeah,
2020.
2020. It'll be
Yeah.
out. Okay, let's wrap up with a question about the future of project management. Our AI, machine learning, data science, big part of what we do here at Cold Star.
Okay.
They're trying to mash that into project management. Tell us a little bit about what you think that is going to look like.
I mean, look what it looks like. It's going to be hard. I just think it's going to work. I think something is going to happen. I mean, project managers, we've existed with a whole bunch of enterprise and non-enterprise level tools, and we work across typical companies that have all these various data sources, etc. But the reality is we're dealing with people. And so the best way I can describe it is, I think what's going to come from kind of AI support for project managers. I don't believe project managers are going to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the AI is a little bit like when you're kind of driving these days. You can, let's face it, these days we can drive an automatic cars. We don't have to worry about changing gear. I mean, that's very common in North America, and it's increasingly common in Europe. But more than that, when I go somewhere new, I don't have to worry about navigating these days. My phone will guide me, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're using Waze or similar, or Google Maps or something like that. It takes the burden of the detail. It's looking ahead for you and saying, don't go this way. This is the better way. There's traffic problems over there. There's an accident over there. So all of that is stripped out, allowing me to do the thing I'm supposed to be doing, which is driving safely and getting to my destination. And the best I can consider the future of project management in this new world is along those lines. The fact that project managers will be able to focus on what's really important about managing their projects and managing themselves whilst delivering that change. And a lot of the tedious stuff, a lot of the calculations and reporting, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
the emotions will be taken out of it, the subjectivity will be taken out of it, and they can do the job they're supposed to be doing.
So some improvements to a critical path calculation, maybe, and
Yeah, all that kind of predictive stuff
yeah.
will take place, and that when I said about having that a high level view,
Mm-hmm.
that will support project managers going, well, look, and I think the big thing is it's not just the project that you're delivering, because we know we live in we all talk about the VUCA world, the world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So it's not about my project. It's about my project on top of the other 99 projects, or the 999 projects. So again, that kind of connective intelligence that says, I'm going to take care of all this kind of overlay and integration, interrelationship that's taking place inside the organization for you. And I'm going to
Right.
warn you, I'm going to, the stuff that project managers just really can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, I speak to project managers, and they can walk into a meeting, or they can stand by the coffee machine and suddenly discover there is something significant happening in the organization that truly impacts the projects they're trying to lead. So I think that's my gut instinct of where it's going to go. I'm quite
Right.
excited about it. I think it's an exciting evolution in project management.
Right. I really like, all the data collected in, and then maybe the unsupervised learning part of machine learning, where it tells you something that you weren't exactly looking for, but with all the combined data of all these projects running, it can tell you, okay, there's this traffic jam over here that you didn't know about,
Yeah.
right? I think that kind of thing is really going to be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Where can people get a hold of you if they're like, hey, I like this Peter Taylor guy and I want to hire him to help us? Where should they go? What should they do? Obviously, they should get the Lazy Project Manager and look for project management as bollocks coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, the best place to go where you can find all the information is the website, which is thelazyprojectmanager.com. So it's just thelazyprojectmanager.com. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I love people to connect to me on LinkedIn. And I'm on there on a daily, hourly basis. So reach out to me that way.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for being my guest today.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks, and be lazy.